When we last spoke on Tuesday, it seemed like the situation was finished, but clearly it isn't. I spoke with Blake's attorney, and they described this as a full-scale win. They're saying they plan to go after Justin now, claiming he filed an illegitimate defamation lawsuit. According to them, California law allows them to recover legal fees and possibly seek punitive damages because they believe the lawsuit was false. I see it differently. In my view, what remains is a procedural motion, something fairly standard. But if someone wants to present a loss as a victory, this appears to be their way of doing that. It feels like more of the same from Miss Lively. So what do you think is behind this approach? In my opinion, it seems difficult for Miss Lively to take responsibility for her actions. When someone isn't able to honestly reflect on their role, it can lead to ongoing problems. They're still describing your client as a sexual harasser. What is your response? There's already been a court decision in my client's favor, so there's not much more to add beyond that. The summary judgment made it clear that every claim involving sexual harassment was denied and dismissed. On top of that, every individual defendant she named was also removed from the case. So when you lose 10 out of 13 claims, it's hard to call that a win. Even in baseball, a 300 average is considered strong. This result is not. Is there any chance Justin might decide to settle, just to avoid more court proceedings and bring this to an end? I wouldn't want to discuss private conversations, but from the very beginning, we've made it clear we would not settle if it involved allegations of sexual harassment. Justin has stood by that from day one. He fought hard to clear his name on those claims, and that's exactly what he did. They're saying Justin's defamation lawsuit against Blake was unlawful, and that's why they're continuing in court. We'll see how the judge decides on that. My sense is that Miss Lively may continue pursuing this in court for as long as possible. She's shown a willingness to keep going. At some point, though, someone needs to reflect and take responsibility. That hasn't happened yet. Have you ever seen anything like this before? Especially with such high-profile people where it just keeps going? Honestly, no. I've never seen someone lose 10 of 13 claims at summary judgment and then go on social media and call it a victory. That's new to me. What concerns me most, though, and what matters most to Justin, is the impact on the domestic violence community and survivors. This situation was never meant to be about us. The film was supposed to highlight something important, and that's getting lost. It's disappointing that Miss Lively hasn't addressed that or spoken directly to those it was meant to support. We've heard reports that Justin moved to Nashville for privacy, to step away from everything happening in Los Angeles. Is that true? And how is he doing? I prefer not to discuss his personal location, especially since that information has already been leaked in this case. What I can say is that he's doing as well as anyone could in this situation. If you care about domestic violence survivors and made a film for that purpose, it's difficult when everything turns into something personal. That was never the intention. When Justin is ready, he'll speak. He's a thoughtful person who genuinely cares about others, and no one wanted things to become this negative. Can you tell me about the phone call you received before court when they wanted to settle? I won't go into too much detail, but I did receive a call asking for private mediation. They wanted to move quickly, suggesting it happened that same night, which was Friday or over the weekend. It was surprising to get that kind of request so suddenly. Why do you think they made that call? In my view, you don't make that kind of call unless you're concerned about going to trial. If someone truly wanted a jury to decide on the remaining 3 out of 13 claims, they would go to trial. That's the normal path. Do you think they were worried about evidence that might be presented in court? From the beginning, we've been very open about the evidence. We shared everything early, text messages and other materials. One side has been very transparent, showing receipts and information, while the other side has tried to keep as much as possible sealed. Was there an NDA signed in this settlement? Or will details eventually come out? There was no NDA signed at all. Justin and the other defendants would not agree to anything that limited their ability to speak about the case. As you review the evidence, were there things that surprised you and might surprise the public later? Yes, absolutely. What stood out was the power dynamic in this case. The way influential people interact with others, how they communicate, and the expectations they place on people. We often hear about this, but it's rare to see it documented so clearly. That was striking. Do you have a message for Blake and her team? Honestly, I don't. I just wish them well.